At the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Tuesday afternoon, Doug Lesmerises and Stephen Means talking about Jaxon Smith-Njigba, who was limited to 2 catches for 3 yards against Notre Dame. Will he play against Arkansas State on Saturday? Stephen, we got information from Ryan Day about that. It feels up in the air. It's kind of like the age-old question in situations like this. Well, if you need him, but you don't want to push it, what was the vibe you got from these guys?
Yeah, I think they left it up to the doctors, but kind of that's the type of vibe we're talking about. If they were playing Notre Dame this week, I think he'd be a little bit more emphatic in whether or not Jaxon was playing this week, and it'd probably be closer to yes, just because you actually need him to beat Notre Dame. You don't need him to beat Arkansas State. But I do think one of the ways to maybe impact some things is this offense has things in it designed for Jaxon. C.J. Stroud was talking about that, whether it's those swing passes where they basically bring Jaxon in motion around both the quarterback and the running back and throw him out there, or the fact that he's just in the slot, which gets the ball a lot in this offense. So it changes up the game plan a little bit, but this is something they're leaving up to the doctors right now, and I think part of it is because they're not necessarily playing an opponent that's going to have a lot of consequences if he doesn't play.
I made the comparison during the game of when Ted Ginn Jr. was hurt in the opening kickoff in the 2006 national title game, and Ryan Day did kind of talk about that more, that it changes everything because just the presence of Jaxon Smith-Njigba opens everything up. Ryan Day said, he's a guy who can catch a little route in the middle of the field and explode. They don't necessarily have a guy who can turn nothing into something the way that Jaxon Smith-Njigba can. But the one thing that C.J. Stroud said was, that's my guy, we're friends. I'm not that worried about him because it's not like he's out for the year or anything, right? So again, that was a little clue of this is something, it's a hamstring. Yep. C.J. Stroud said, I've had hamstrings before and you can barely run, and that's Jackson's game. He's fast. He's a guy who needs to be able to run. So it does feel like it's management. It's not super serious, but as we stand here on Tuesday, Stephen, I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't play. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't play because he's so valuable to what they want to do this whole season.
If he's not 100%, there's no point to try to waste him against Arkansas State when you don't need him. And honestly, if anything, it gives C.J. Stroud more room to kind of get some chemistry going with these other receivers, because they had some good moments, but they also had some moments where you could tell this chemistry with guys like Marvin Harrison, guys like Emeka Egbuka, even Jaden Ballard, if he has to play, it's still a work in progress.
The idea that it's obvious, I don't know if it's obvious that Ryan Day was saying, the doctors say if it's a yes, oh yeah, he can play, or a no, and then Ryan Day said, and if it's in between, then you got to figure out. It does feel, I think we're in the in between, right? So then it's going to be up to the player in large part because, again, Ryan Day saying against Notre Dame, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, they trust him. He's saying, I can't do what I need to do. I think I'm hurting the team. I just can't go. When you have a player like that, I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba is going to have a lot to say about this, and they're not going to force it. All week we'll be covering that. We'll be getting ready for Ohio State in week 2. Read cleveland.com/OSU. Listen to the Buckeye Talk podcast and try the texts 614-350-3315.